challenge with each other, right? The person who observed learned something about giving instructions, right, from going to the class. I find that when I observe, when it's something the teacher's doing that's like, oh, why is she doing that? And I go like, oh, wait, I do that too, right? So it helps me reflect as an observer what I can improve on. And then I can learn something new as well. So let's do a little practice. If I can have somebody pass.
Excuse me?
Yes, we have a question.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
In terms of peer observation,
Yes.
Especially the video show at the moment. So, any problem in terms of our peer observation in terms of is it objective or is it subjective? Could you clarify?
Well, in this case, I think it was well, because it's formative, right? I don't think it was all objective, because she did say, I don't know, it seemed to me that you were speaking fast. And so she did, and we'll talk about that later in the session, because she didn't have data to support that she was talking fast. Usually you want to have some kind of data. Oh, you didn't have enough teacher interaction. How do you know? Well, here, I made a chart. And then you, teacher to student, and you make a little chart and count how many times the students talk to each other. Oh, the students only talk to each other 5 times. And they could have talked to each other 10 or 15 times. So then that would make it objective. She did not do any of that. Although, the teacher could have asked her to. When you come to visit my class, will you please make a note of how many times the students interact with each other? It could be objective. I don't think this one was objective.
Yeah.
Totally objective. Right, yeah.
So could you tell us briefly in terms of what is the percentage in terms of the objective of peer teaching and subjective of peer teaching? Could you estimate around
Well, I think it depends on the teachers involved.
So one more thing, in terms of peer teachings, how often do we let our teachers or our peer teaching do it for one term, like 3 months or 6 months?
I don't know. What do you think? I mean, we used to do it when I was teaching in Turkey. We used to do it once a semester.
Once a semester.
Or maybe, or you could do it twice a semester. Not every week, because then it gets old. So once every 6 weeks, say, or once every 12 weeks, maybe. Yeah.
But
that's just how we've done it. You can. It's the thing about peer observations is that it's flexible. You can do it however you want to.
Is it possible if we let 2 or 3 teachers come to observe? Because sometimes we let only a teacher, so I think it will the judgment will be by us, or feeling is the most. So we have to let 3 or 2 teachers to observe the class pattern. Is it possible?
I'm not a fan of that, mainly because then if I'm teaching and I've got a panel of teachers in the back, it's more like a trial than an observation is all. But again, if it's okay with the teachers, but then that wouldn't be so much for summative. I mean, for formative. That would be maybe like student teachers observing a master teacher. But if it's peers, I don't think you need so many. Just peers should be 1-to-1, so it's private. But of course, it's flexible.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, what is this? What is this word you use between you and much? Thank you, much.
The same. I used to say like this.
Okay, I'm still not sure what the word is, but okay.
New phrase.
Less formal. Less formal. That is public assessment. Okay, so she wants to know after the two teachers talk. After the two teachers talk with each other, what next? What do you think? What does it change their teaching knowledge? Does it change their teaching knowledge? What do you think? What do you think happens next? They're what? Where's the voice? Oh, for me. Okay. They're what? Okay, so the teacher can then prepare the lesson for the next class. So yeah, and it depends also on the motivation of the teacher. If I ask somebody to observe me, so it should be voluntary. Well, yeah, let's say it should be voluntary. Then why am I going to have somebody observe me? I'm not going to try to do something with it. But I think just the process of being observed kind of makes me want to do better. Right? So maybe since I've reflected for that day, I've changed a little bit if I need to, or I work on one thing. Maybe I would choose one thing. Okay, you've given me some feedback on some things I can do. I'm going to choose one thing to work on. Because if you choose, I've got 15 marks of things I need to work on, I can't work on any of them because it's too much. If I can choose one thing or two things to work on, then it's more practical for me.
As an experience in one language, school day in display observation as the criteria for new teacher to pass probation. Is it according to your arguments?
I don't like that idea because peer observation should be formative. And if you're going to pass probation with it, that makes it summative. So, I don't know. Maybe the language school just wants to save money. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, anything else before we do our next activity? So we're not going to spend too much time on this, but I have a handout for you with instructions on the front and a lesson plan on the back. So, what you're going to do is, with a partner or 3 people, work together. Look at the lesson plan as if a teacher that you are going to observe has given you this lesson plan. You're coming to observe me tomorrow in class. Here's my lesson plan. And then you as the observer goes like, okay, I'm going to look at this lesson plan, and on the front it tells you what to do. Highlight any problems you see. What do you notice about what the teacher needs to do? And some other things. Step back and look at what you've emphasized, and what do you notice about what's important to you as a supervisor. So this one is leaning more towards supervisory feedback and observation, but you can still use it for peer feedback and observation. Okay. And then step 3, construct 3 questions that you're going to ask the teacher during the pre-observation conference. So this is before the pre-observation conference. The teacher has given you this lesson plan, and you're going to look at the lesson plan before you observe. So if I can get somebody to help me pass these out, I'll just pass them on back. So it's a lesson plan on one side, and questions on the other side to ask the teacher. You are preparing for the pre-observation conference. Look at their lesson plan and find out what to do. The teacher during your pre-conference, your pre-observation conference. Questions, you can ask the teacher. Questions that you can ask the teacher about this lesson plan or about her lesson during the pre-observation meeting. So based on this lesson plan that the teacher is going to teach, what questions will you ask her or him at the pre-observation conference?
Why if you start feeling late?
Well, let's start with an easy one. What were some of the problems with the lesson plan? Okay, so which tense do you prefer to teach? Okay, that's a nice way to put it, that you're teaching 2 minutes. Yes, right, okay. And another question you might ask. Were you going to say something? Or you were going to say Exactly, there's so many tenses. There's so many tenses, yeah.
So we mainly focus on 1 form at a time. So in one session, the teacher may not focus on 2 forms like this.
Right. And that's what she had pointed out, the same thing, is that she might ask this question, oh, which tense are you going to focus on? And so that's a more subtle way of saying you have so many tenses. So that's one of the issues, right? Too much information in the lesson plan. What do you think the teacher is not thinking about? Anything you think the teacher is not thinking about that you want to draw their attention to? I think you hit on the main one, right? Just trying to teach too many tenses at the same time. How about the timing? Yeah, too short. So she's not thinking about the timing either. Okay, so those are some things you could ask about in the pre-observation conference. And then here's some examples of some other questions that you can ask in the pre-observation conference. Anything specific you want me to focus on? We saw that in the video. Are you having any classroom management issues that you need help with? Or having any problems with any specific students that I can be on the lookout for? And the objective, so you're going to be looking for the objective. Was it clear to the students? So there's some notes for you to follow when you do the observation. But you guys have that pretty much under control. You're very aware of what you want to look for. What is the objective and how did the teacher meet the objective? Let's look at how we can do some data. And I don't know how many handouts there are. Stage actress, so I know how to project my voice. So if you cannot hear me, perhaps it's because some other people are talking. If you can ask the other people to stop talking, you might have a better chance. Otherwise, if I do slip and go down, then I'll accept a request to, because if I forget, to speak more loudly. So I do need one copy of the handout. I passed them all out, and I need to look at them. And I'll give it back to you. I just need it for reference. Okay. So, during the observation, you need to focus on the points that you decided on before the observation and to observe specific data only. So that's when somebody asks, is that objective or subjective? Only what you observed, not how you interpret it. And again, pick and choose. Don't know everything. Don't do that 35-item checklist. So notice the moment and write it down. Write the teacher and student description and a brief note of the analysis. We're just going to do this very quickly because we want to finish up by 11:30. Is that right?
Yes.
Or earlier?
You want to finish later?
Earlier because my schedule said 8:30 to 11:30. That's what was on my schedule. If you want me to wrap up earlier, I can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Follow. You may follow your plan.
Okay, so we'll just kind of run through the rest of this then. Okay. Okay, so I'll just give some examples and we won't do this particular practice. So data is a list of questions and responses. That's data, that's evidence. Or the number of TS and SS interactions, that's evidence. So you can't just say, oh, there wasn't much interaction. So every time you see an interaction, you mark SS, SS, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And also classroom arrangement, some things to look for. The management, student talk to teacher talk, classroom environment. So I was going to give a sample lesson with bad instructions for you to observe, but since we want to wrap up early, we'll skip that part. Observation conference. So what we're doing is You help the other person improve. And you don't necessarily give advice. Somebody's really having a phone conversation. So you don't really give advice. You encourage the other person to think for themselves, oh, what do I need to do? So instead of saying, what do you need to do, X, Y, Z, what would you like to do? Oh, I think I need to work on X. So your first question after the observation is what? Or is it a question or a statement? First after the observation, you're going to say, what do you think? How do you think your lesson went? Yeah, establish that connection. Let the teacher be in charge of his or her own professional development, and you just kind of guide it. If they never mention the part that you think is really important, then you can guide it that way. But here are some ways to be a coach and not an observer. So the stance, that means how do we define the coach approach to observations? It's an exploration. How can you become a better teacher? Right? Together, how can we work together to make you a better teacher and to make me a better teacher? Use it as a shared resource. Describe what happens, not the person. The work is ongoing. And then here's some data as your checklist. And the talk, as we said, begin on a positive note and ask them what they think went right. And it's collaborative. And here's some strategies at the bottom. Allow the teacher to speak first. And you already do this. Start by discussing the objective of the lesson. So you're like 80% ahead of the game with that one. Allow the points from the pre-observation to guide the session. Provide description. That's one of the main things. Prescribe description. I noticed that you asked 5 questions and the students answered 4 questions. I noticed you talked 75% of the time. The students only talked 25% of the time. Just with information, just with data. And then we have the sandwich and make it like a conversation. Right? So those are some coaching conversation notes. This is for the post-conference. And then, here's some tips for you. So I hope that you'll make use of these, since we won't have time to cover them. Some tips for you on the post-observation conference, preparing notes and questions for feedback. A teacher to take control or to take direction of their own professional development and making them part of the process and not like a you do this, you do that thing. So, and then a lot of references for you on the handout, and I think we're going to have those on a Google Drive as well. So this is my Facebook page. I think some of you might already be on Facebook with me, but if you're not, it's ELT, that's for English Language Trainer, like Kitty Johnson. So be in touch with me on Facebook. Is anyone coming back this afternoon, or is that a total different group of people? But I'll be here a little early because I have to walk up the stairs. Okay, well, thank you very